Good afternoon, everyone. Tractorman 44 here. I'm doing a little introduction to this video simply because, well, I went to an old antique tractor show down in a little town called Pinckneyville, Illinois, just across the Mississippi River from where I live here. It's about 85 miles or so from here, I guess. But at any rate, putting this intro in there just as a disclaimer, so to speak, because quite frankly, you know, I tried I tried narrating a little bit, you know, as I'm trying to film, you know, like the engine compartments or the best parts of the tractors and stuff. And I probably made a mistake here or two. So I'm just not wanting you to jump all over me if I made an error. If I did make an error, which I'm sure there is, hopefully it's going to be somewhat minor. But at any rate, it takes a little talent to think of stuff, recall things from memory, try to remember things that you might know about a tractor, hold the camera steady and spit all that out at the same time. That takes a little talent, and obviously I'm lacking to a great extent in that particular level of talent. So at any rate, just thought I'd kind of add this little disclaimer, and it's enjoyable to me as far as the video is concerned. I just certainly hope it's enjoyable to you guys. So at any rate, with no further ado, I will go ahead and edit this on in and start putting the other videos right in there. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. This is Tractorman 44. I'm at an antique tractor show in Pinckneyville, Illinois. Walking down a row of tractors. This first one is a Style A. It's a pretty late model A in the early 50s somewhere. The next one's a old McCormick Deering. I'm not much into the old McCormicks, but that's what it is. Here comes a John Deere H. That's a little bitty guy. I don't remember what the horsepower is, but it's not very much at all. This should be a SD case, standard tread, of course, wide tread, short and squatty. Farmall H, of course. And then here comes a VAC case. And this looks like an F12 Farmall coming up. I'm not a big Farmall guy. I do have a few internationals, but yeah, it says F12 on it. This one here is much older. I think this is a Farmall regular, but I'm not sure. There'll be somebody out there to correct me on that. Then another VAC case, and then another case. I believe that's an L. That's a big old dog. And then yet another case even behind that. Now we're getting into uncharted territory. There's not a Minneapolis Moline in the county I live in, so I don't know anything about the minis. And then of course a DC case. You can always tell a SC and a DC by this steering arm out in front. Steering arms are almost always busted. Guys running in trees at the end of the farm roads and stuff like that. And here's another little, probably an H, John Deere. And then of course another A. It's probably about the same year as the very first A we saw up there. And Alice. It's not a WC, it's probably a U or something of that nature. This here should be a WC Alice Chalmers. Then we're getting into the bigger stuff down here. And we've got a big row back here of some really neat stuff. John Deere B, an international down there. Here's another Farmall H. Then a whole row all the way up through there. I won't walk up through all that and make a video exceptionally long, but here comes a team of horses shuttling people around, you know, to and from the parking lots and stuff, you know. And it's pretty cool. All right, this is Tractorman 44. I'm out of here for right now. Here's an Oliver row prop 66. There's another Minneapolis Moline. Again, I'm not a big mini guy. If it didn't say U on it, I wouldn't know what it was. Followed up by a VAC case, and then a 50 John Deere. I've actually got recently picked up a 50 John Deere. Next it's a A. That's a fairly new A also. I've got an old A. I've got a 1939 A. This one here is in the early 50s. And here's a general purpose GP John Deere row crop. And here's a little Oliver Cletrac. Cleveland Tractor Company was bought out by Oliver whenever they wanted to get into the crawler line, so that's why they call them Oliver Cletrac. And then here's another general purpose John Deere, but it's actually a Model A if I'm not mistaken. And here's a John Deere D, a little short and squatty, one of the longest running John Deeres of the John Deere line. 1923 I think they started the D, and they ran the D until the early 1950s. Here's a WD-45 Allis-Chalmers. It's just got a little more oomph than a standard WD, and it's almost the same thing as a WC, but WC is much older, and you know, the engine's a little bit smaller, and you know, it's just a more improved tractor. And here's a Ford, pretty fancy Ford, Selecto Speed, 4000, and then a Ford 801 Powermaster, of course. And then here's another A. It too is it's going to be in the 39. Oh yeah, there it says right there, 39. So that's essentially the same as my Deere, or my A anyway. Mine has a very low serial number. And then here's an LA John Deere. I have one of those little guys. There's another baby H, and then another LA, but this is industrial, so it'll be a LI designation. Here's another 50, model 50 John Deere. And of course a big bore propane fired 70 John Deere, and then an R. That's some pretty neat tractors over there, man. Now we're down into the smaller Fords. Yeah, I don't know what this one is. It's going to be a 601, 801, 800. No, hell, it's a Jubilee. 1953 is what it'll be if it's a Jubilee. Now here's your 601. And of course, a little Ferguson. This here's about a 1937-38 Graham Bradley set up with 2-row cultivators. You can see the shovels down here, and you can see the fenders on those shovels. That's to shield your row crop from being covered up whenever you're cultivating them, whenever they're extremely short. But at any rate, this particular one predates hydraulics. It's actually a mechanical lift. You can see right here the 2 levers right here on the side. You actually had to manhandle them to get them back up out of the ground. So you had to do that as you're coming out of your row crop while you're still rolling, because if you actually stopped, it was much tougher to grab it and pull it out of the ground. But at any rate, this is an example that predates hydraulics. In the mid-30s, there was a push to make tractors more streamlined and more pleasing to the eye. So they started styling the tractors. And what you're seeing here is a Graham Bradley, or a series of Graham Bradley styled tractors. They were very, very fancy for their time. These were all in the very late 30s. Maxi Harris styled a 101 Super in very much the same fashion. Didn't have the cast iron front grille that protrudes out quite so far as what these guys do, but it was still all shrouded and fancy with some chrome and things like that. And incidentally, these things actually had a Chrysler Industrial 6-cylinder in some of these models. You can see that right there. That engine painted all black. That's going to be the Chrysler Industrial six-bagger. But at any rate, these are definitely a row of seriously restored Graham Bradleys, and these things are top dollar. I have no idea what they would cost, but I saw an old rusty non-running one time here not too long ago that they wanted $3,800 for, and it's like, good Lord, I sure ain't too rich for my blood. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but Sears and Roebuck catalog store, years and years and years ago, they would have just about anything you could possibly imagine, you know, available in their catalog store. One of the things that they had was farm tractors. This is an Economy, which was actually sold by Sears and Roebuck. You can see this in 1939 Sears Economy Model A. And they had several different sizes, several different configurations, but essentially it was a very economically built tractor. You can see this being a 1939 compared to some of the Graham Bradleys I just showed you back in the back, so you can understand why it's literally an economical economy tractor. But they had 1-cylinder engines, they had wash machines, they had everything you could possibly imagine. You know, you could mail order right in the Sears and Roebuck catalog. Even had doodlebug kits where you could buy parts and pieces, convert Model Ts into farming equipment, farming tools. This is a Massey Ferguson 98. It's got the General Motors 2-stroke diesel engine in it. The next one here is a Model 25. You can see the type of frame it's got under it. That's called a U-tube frame. That was held over from the Wallace line when Maxi Harris actually purchased a Wallace tractor line whenever they decided to extend their businesses into traction engine or tractoring. Here's a little Model 30. I've got quite a number of those. I've got probably 4 of those. That there is going to be in the early 50s right there. This is going to be a 162 cubic inch Continental flathead. This one here does not have power steering, but you can see it's got a hydraulic cultivator lift. Now, this older Model 25, there was nothing but mechanical stuff on that. There was no such thing as hydraulics back in those days. We got some newer versions over here. There's a Maxi Harris 44. We're looking at the back end of it there. That's a 260 cubic inch 4-cylinder Continental. These were a couple of Massey Fergusons. I ain't much into Massey Fergusons. Here's a later model, Maxi Harris 444. You can tell by the gold block, it's a 444 series. They have all kinds of cool things about it. It's got a lot of extra chrome. It's got tachometer. It's really a nice tractor. This is the last series of Maxi Harris. Whenever they bought out Ferguson, became Massey Ferguson. This is the last of the series, the triple digits. Here's an old 33. I've got a couple of these sitting in my barnyard too. This one here's a little rough. Of course, it's better looking than mine. This one here runs. This one here, incidentally, is a 333 series. I guess they might have even called it a 333 special. I don't know. It too is the triple digit. You can see obviously the additional chrome on the front. That neat little chrome Maxi Harris emblem on top of the radiator cowl. Your hydraulic pump and everything, your hydraulic reservoir and stuff is behind the grill. Hydraulic pump on the side of the motor. And of course, you can see the oil filter and of course the starter. And it had a shroud and stuff that encompassed, you know, all the hydraulics and everything under the seat. Those were again mid 50s, because it was around 56, 57 when Maxi Harris merged with Harry Ferguson to create the Massey Ferguson Company. People always think that Massey Ferguson or Ferguson bought out Maxi Harris, but it was quite the other way around. But at any rate, there's quite a selection. I think they're featuring Maxi Harris's at this particular show today. And here's a 101 Senior, which is either going to have a Continental 6-cylinder or a Chrysler Industrial. More than likely a Continental 6-cylinder. It's going to be probably about 1946 or thereabouts. And here's the front end of just a standard old gas tractor, 44. That's going to be the 260 cubic inch 4-cylinder. This little guy down here looks to me like it's probably a model 81 is what I'm going to guess. It could be a 22, but I don't think so. I think it's a model 81, which is also like a 124 cubic inch Continental.